So, let's talk about a subject we all think we know pretty well: psychology. But what is it really?
Seriously, just for a second, when you hear that word psychology, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it a therapist's couch? Maybe some FBI profiler trying to get inside a criminal's mind? Go ahead and picture. Yeah, I'm guessing it's probably something you've seen in pop culture. TV therapists giving life advice, slick forensic psychologists on crime shows, or maybe the counselors we see in schools and family settings. That's the version of psychology we all know.
But what if I told you that what you just pictured is just one tiny piece of a way, way bigger puzzle? That what we see on TV isn't even close to the whole story?
See, the truth is, most of the hundreds of thousands of psychologists out there aren't on TV at all. They're working in places you'd probably never expect. In research labs, hospitals, and all sorts of other settings, trying to figure out the behavior of both people and animals.
And the stuff they study? It is all over the map. I mean, we're talking about everything from how a praying mantis can hear, to how birds tell each other apart, to what caffeine does to your thinking. They're looking at how people from different cultures negotiate, and even digging into the really tough questions, like what leads to terrorism. It's absolutely huge.
Okay, so this brings up a really good question. We're all kind of everyday scientists, right? We're constantly watching people, trying to figure out why they do what they do, making little predictions. So if we're doing that all the time anyway, why do we need a whole science for it? Why can't we just trust our gut?
Well, here's the kicker. Our intuition, our gut feeling, is often a pretty terrible scientist. The way we casually collect and interpret information about the world around us is messy, it's biased, and honestly, it's just not very reliable.
And this is just a perfect example of the problem. Think about an eyewitness at a crime scene. They are often incredibly confident about what they saw, like 100% positive. But the research is crystal clear. That confidence means almost nothing when it comes to being accurate. Someone can be totally certain and totally wrong. Our minds can play some serious tricks on us.
And a big reason why is something called hindsight bias. You know that feeling, right? After something happens, you think, oh, yeah, I knew that was going to happen all along. That's hindsight bias. It makes us feel like the world is way more predictable than it actually is, because we look back and think the outcome was obvious.
This quote really breaks down how that works. The second you hear a finding, like say, opposites attract, your brain immediately starts scanning its files for every couple you know that fits that description. You totally ignore all the couples who are super similar, and bam, the finding seems like obvious common sense.
So, how do we get around these mental traps? How do we find out what's really going on? Well, to overcome these biases, psychologists don't rely on intuition. They use empirical methods. It's basically a structured, scientific way of observing the world and collecting data to find real answers.
All right, let's see this in action. I want to show you a brilliant and kind of sneaky experiment that shows you exactly how this works. It's just a simple taste test with tea, but what it reveals is pretty profound.
So here's the setup. Researchers brought people in. Let's say your name is Jonathan. They create two new, totally made-up brands of tea. One is called Janoki and the other is called Ilioki, using the first three letters of another participant's name. They have you taste both and then they say, pick one to take home. Simple enough, right?
So, what do you think happened? Which tea did people pick more often? The one that tasted better? The one with a cooler sounding name? What's your gut tell you?
Check this out. The result was wild. A whopping 64% of the time, people chose the tea that had the first three letters of their own name in it. That is a huge preference, revealing this powerful, unconscious pull we have toward things that subtly remind us of ourselves.
But here is the absolute most important part. When the researchers asked people why they chose the tea they did, over 90% of them said it was because of the taste. They were completely unaware of what was really driving their decision. Their intuition just fed them a simple, logical answer that was completely wrong.
And that experiment, right there, just perfectly captures what psychology is really about. It's not just about our thoughts and feelings. It's about scientifically studying what we actually do, our behavior, and then uncovering the real and often hidden reasons behind it.
Which brings us right to the core definition. Psychology is a scientific study of mind and behavior. The name itself even comes from the Greek words for life and explanation. You can honestly boil the entire discipline down to these two core ideas. The what is behavior, everything from why you choose a brand of tea to how entire societies function. And the how is empiricism, which is just a fancy word for using the scientific method to test ideas instead of just guessing.
And this focus on behavior is the one thing that connects everybody in the field. It's the unifying theme that links a neuroscientist studying how your brain cells fire with a social psychologist studying how groups interact. At the end of the day, they're all trying to explain behavior.
So why does all this matter? Well, as this quote puts it, psychology matters because it helps us understand behavior, our own and everybody else's. And, crucially, it gives us confidence that what we know is based on actual, empirical study, not just someone's opinion. And that leaves us with one last thing to chew on. That T experiment showed us a simple, hidden force shaping a really small choice. So the question is, what other hidden forces are shaping your much, much bigger choices right now? Thanks for watching.